But by giving the power to solemnise the legal contract of marriage to bodies outside the state's own infrastructure, whether they are religious or not, I think opens ourselves to unsolvable and endless problems which could end up in court. I don't think that any legal definition can fairly answer the question, and therefore would be better not to have opened up some of this can of worms in some ways. My preference, as I said, is to move towards a situation where you have the state officials are the ones and the only ones who solemnise the marriage contracts. Religious services and religious organisations would carry out their own solemnisation of their religious contract, which is a separate contract. Deputies may be also familiar, and this is a point in terms of how dangerous it is going down the road of setting out a list of guidelines and what can qualify as a religion or not. I don't know whether anybody is familiar in this House with the religion of Pastafarian. Pastafarian, they have a deity which is the flying spaghetti monster. Now you might laugh, but this is quite factual, because a religion was created essentially in the United States to challenge the teaching of intelligent design or creatism in public school in the United States by way of a parody in 2005. But it has members, they said, that believe that a flying spaghetti monster invented the world and subsequently falsified the carbon dating tests to the by using the powerful nudie appendage. They believe that the pirates were the earliest worshipper of this flying spaghetti monster, and also directly correlate the global reduction in the pirate population with the rise in global temperatures and associated natural disasters. Now, it is funny if it wasn't so serious, because Pastafarian has become somewhat of a global phenomenon, with its members across the world using it to call into sharp focus the church and state divide. In July 2011, an Austrian Pastafarian won the legal right to wear spaghetti strainer on his head in his driver's licence photograph. He fought his case on the grounds that Austrian regulations allow for the wearing of religious headgear in identity documents. So all I'm doing is cautioning, going down the road of all of the definitions of religion and non-religion in the way that we've done in this. There are other, in America it was used, Pastafarians also challenged and on occasion succeeded in having a tree with a spaghetti on the top of it have the equal status with the Jewish menorah and the Christian nativity seen in public buildings. So it has an effect, and sometimes the media probably focus in on that has political correctness gone mad, but this was a parody trying to expose some of how ridiculous some of the rules were. It is not my intention, as I said, to offend any religious or philosophical group. For me, the bottom line is this: all of this nonsense and the dodgy legal definitions that are contained should be avoided. It is important to note that marriage solemnisers were restricted to, if they were restricted to a fully accountable registrars or employed by the state under the Clorahor, then we would have a better system and we'd have a more secular society. It would be more in kin with a republic where we have equal status. Marriage is probably the most important and most prevalent legal contract entered into by citizens of the state. As in many other countries, people should have their marriage solemnised by an official of the state, and after that they are free to choose whatever they wish, whatever ritual, ceremony or party that they like, religious or otherwise. They should be entitled to that. But for the purpose of the state, it should be a state employee to do that. There are other concerns that we could have if we had a longer committee stage section we could have dealt with. For instance, I mentioned the Monday to Friday rules with the HSE. There's the fact that even though in the legislation it says it shouldn't be for profit, it's that none of these groups should be for profit principally. they can be for profit, some of these religions or organisations that are set up, and that raises concerns. It is open, obviously, to a group such as people. I was very young at the time. People might remember the Screamers. That would have been a group of 50 people who worshipped on an island in Donegal, I think, eventually, who went around screaming their heads off as their release. But that was an organised religion, and if they screamed for 5 years, they might qualify under these rules to solemnize marriage. So again, another example, but in some ways a homegrown example of the Pastafarians and that. There was, I think, one or two other small points that I wanted to highlight. One of the points that had been made by Atheists Ireland is that it said that the description in relation to the excluded bodies and that is virtually taken en bloc from the Charities Act 2009, but where it says a body that promotes a political cause. And then it ends in this bill, whereas in the Charities Act, and don't forget this is kind of similar in some ways because it's the same type of rules that apply, a body that promotes a political cause, unless the promotion of that cause relates directly to the advancement of the charitable purpose of that body. Now, that would have allowed the humanists to do exactly what I was pointing out earlier, if that part had been left in, because it directly related to the advancement of the charitable purposes of the body, and the charitable purpose of a religion or a secular group is to promote their ideals. In a religion, it's in religious organisations to promote their religion, and that might involve a political cause. In fact, if the Catholic Church wasn't on the list and it had to apply, it might fall foul of that because it is promoting political causes in some ways, or it is promoting causes which are contrary to public policy. So, for instance, we heard the bishops during the week on the government's announcement kind of saying that they were opposed to it. That would be contrary to political or public policy. So it's an area fraught with a lot of danger, and I do think it's a pity that we are dealing with it here today on the eve of the pagan festival of the winter solstice, and as the last item nearly before we break for the Christmas holidays. And that's interesting in itself that the humanists are going to benefit from our Christmas break. But we should have had a bit more thought in this. I know there was that the Senate had a long discussion on it and that, but I think it would have been useful to have a longer discussion in the committee in relation to this and all of the questions that have been raised by people, and maybe at a later date you might have to come back to this in another civil registration amendment bill to deal with some of the points that have been raised here and some of the points which Atheists Ireland have said that they intend at the very least to lobby the President to address or to prevent this legislation coming into law, because it contravenes quite a number of, in their view, quite a number of the UN conventions, the European Convention on Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and also they say the Constitution itself. So, as I said earlier, it's in their gift now, because this is likely to be passed, to take that challenge, but I would have preferred if we had the opportunity to tease out those points prior to its passage, so that they wouldn't have felt the need at that stage to go to court. So I'll leave it at that, and as I said, I welcome the fact that we're addressing kind of the anomaly that the humanists weren't included in the first place, but we're addressing it in a way which I think is going to cause further problems for us in the future.
Thank you, Deputy.